I'm Allison Parker, 29, standing in the snow outside my family home on Christmas Eve, a single suitcase beside me. The words still ring in my ears, my father's voice booming through the neighborhood. If you can't contribute to this family, you're not welcome here. My tears freeze on my cheeks as I watch the door slam shut. Mom's crying inside but doing nothing to stop him. They have no idea that the daughter they just threw away like garbage is the founder of a $68 million tech company. Little did they know the daughter they just threw away like garbage was about to become their worst nightmare. Before I dive into this story, where are you watching from today? Hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever had family members who didn't believe in you. Trust me, you'll want to stick around to see how I turned my family's rejection into my greatest motivation. Let's get into it. I grew up in a cookie-cutter suburban home in Newton just outside Boston. From the outside, we were the picture-perfect American family, 4-bedroom colonial manicured lawn family photos with matching sweaters on the mantle. But behind closed doors, our family operated on a strict hierarchy with my father Richard Parker at the top. Dad worked as an investment manager at a prestigious firm downtown. His entire identity revolved around money, status, and appearances. He drove the right car, joined the right country club, and expected his children to follow the carefully planned path he'd laid out. My mother Diane was the perfect corporate wife. She hosted dinner parties, volunteered for the right charities, and never ever contradicted my father in public or private. Then there were us kids. My older brother James was the golden child. He followed Dad into finance, even joining the same firm after getting his MBA from Wharton. My younger sister Stephanie studied communications at Boston College and got engaged to the son of one of Dad's golf buddies. They were the success stories, the ones whose framed achievements dominated our living room. And then there was me. From the time I was 11, I was obsessed with computers. While other girls my age were reading teen magazines, I was teaching myself to code. I built my first website at 12. By 14, I was fixing computers for neighbors to earn extra cash. Dad called it a cute hobby but made it clear it wasn't a real career path. "Allison, computers are for the IT guys we hire," he'd say dismissively. "Parker women go into business or marry well. Preferably both." Throughout high school, I maintained the facade of the dutiful daughter. I joined the debate team and business club like Dad wanted, but every night after finishing my homework, I'd spend hours coding and learning about software development. When I was accepted to MIT, my father assumed I'd study business or economics. He'd already planned my future MBA, then a position at his firm where he could groom me to handle their female clients. The bomb dropped during my sophomore year when I officially changed my major from finance to computer science. "You did what?" My father's voice over the phone was cold with fury. I was sitting in my dorm room, hands shaking as I held my cell phone. "Computer science is a growing field, Dad. There's huge opportunity. I'm not paying for this nonsense, Allison. Either you switch back to a respectable major or you're on your own." He wasn't bluffing. The next semester my tuition went unpaid. I had exactly 2 weeks to either drop out or find a way to pay. I refused to quit. Instead, I took on 3 part-time jobs: barista in the morning, library assistant during the day, and website development at night. I survived on 4 hours of sleep, ramen noodles, and pure determination. Graduation day should have been triumphant. I'd made it through MIT with honors, completely self-financed. My family attended, but there was no celebration dinner like James had received. Dad glanced at my diploma and handed it back with a shrug. "Well, I suppose you can always teach if this computer phase doesn't work out," he said, checking his watch. "We need to get going. We have reservations at the club for James's promotion dinner." That was the first knife twist, but hardly the last. The Thanksgiving after graduation was particularly brutal. I'd been working on my startup for about 6 months, pouring every waking hour into developing my security software. I was exhausted but excited about a meeting with a potential investor the following week. "So Allison," my father started as he carved the turkey, still playing with computers, "I'm building a cybersecurity platform, Dad. It's not playing." James snickered. What does that even mean? You make those pop-ups that ask if we accept cookies. No, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm developing enterprise-level security architecture that prevents— Sounds like a lot of fancy words for unemployment, Dad interrupted. James just closed a $3 million account yesterday. That's wonderful, Mom chimed in, desperate to change the subject. James, tell everyone about your new condo. And just like that, I was erased from the conversation again. What they didn't know was that I'd already secured $200 0-inches seed funding and was finalizing the patent on my security algorithm. But I stayed quiet. Something inside me had stopped seeking their approval. As everyone moved to the living room for coffee, my father cornered me in the kitchen. This has gone on long enough, Allison. I have a contact at Wellington Fund who owes me a favor. He can get you an entry-level position. It's time to join the real world. I'm already in the real world, Dad. My company. He laughed, actually laughed in my face. Your company. You. And what army? What clients, what revenue? Stop pretending and grow up. I left that night knowing I would never share my success with them. If they couldn't believe in me at ground zero, they didn't deserve to celebrate with me at the summit. Christmas Eve at the Parker household had always been an elaborate affair. Mom spent weeks decorating every inch of the house, preparing homemade cookies and planning the perfect meal. This year was no different, except that I arrived with a knot in my stomach. I'd spent the past year avoiding most family gatherings, focusing on growing my business. But Christmas was non-negotiable, according to my mother. I pulled into the driveway in my modest Honda Civic. I could have upgraded months ago, but keeping up appearances of struggle seemed important now. Not to deceive, but to protect myself from their judgment and potential interference. Inside the house smelled of pine and cinnamon. Dad was already drinking bourbon by the fire while James was showing off photos of his new Audi. My sister Stephanie was flashing her 3-carat engagement ring to our aunt, while her fiancé Bradley discussed golf handicaps with the men. Allison, finally, Mom said, air kissing my cheek. We were beginning to think you weren't coming. Traffic, I lied. I'd actually been on a conference call with potential investors in Japan until 20 minutes ago. Dinner was the usual performance. Dad carving the roast while delivering his annual State of the Family address. It's been another banner year for the Parkers, he announced. James closed the Wellington portfolio, bringing in the largest commission the firm has seen this quarter. James raised his glass, soaking in the adoration. And our Stephanie is planning the June wedding of the season. Bradley's father has generously offered them the down payment for that beautiful colonial in Wellesley. Stephanie beamed. We're just waiting to hear if we got the corner office at the country club for the reception. All eyes turned to me. The silence stretched uncomfortably. And Allison is still finding her way, Dad finally said, the disappointment evident. I took a large sip of wine. Just get through the night, I told myself. After dinner, as everyone gathered around the tree for the gift exchange, the interrogation began in earnest. So what exactly are you doing these days? Allison, Uncle Frank asked. I work in cybersecurity software, I answered simply. For what company? Aunt Linda pressed. My own. Dad scoffed loudly. She means she's freelancing. Small projects, website stuff. I bit my tongue. My company had just secured a contract with a Fortune 500 company worth $3.7 million. James jumped in. You know, my friend Derek is looking for someone to manage their social media. Not much money, but it's a foot in the door. I'm good, thanks. My voice was tight. The problem is your attitude, Allison, Dad interjected. You always think you're too good for honest work. Too special to climb the ladder like everyone else. I'm building my own ladder, I replied. Dad slammed down his glass. Building your ladder. It's been years since college, and what do you have to show for it? You show up here in the same car you've had since graduation, wearing clothes from Target, while your brother and sister are actually contributing to this family's legacy. Mom touched his arm. Richard, it's Christmas. He shrugged her off. No, Diane. It's time for some tough love. Allison, everyone in this family pulls their weight. Everyone contributes. What have you brought to this family lately? I don't measure contribution in dollar signs, Dad. Well, maybe you should start. Do you know what we spent on your education before you went off the rails? Do you know what opportunities we gave you that you threw away? And now you can't even afford a decent outfit for Christmas? Dinner. The room went silent. Stephanie stared at her plate. James smirked slightly. I could have ended it all right there. I could have told them about the 200 employees who depended on me, about the $68 million valuation after our last funding round, about the profile Forbes was planning for their 30 under 30 issue next month. But something stopped me. The realization that nothing I said would ever be enough. That in this house I would always be the disappointment, the cautionary tale they told at country club dinners. You know what, Dad? You're right, I said, quietly standing up. I haven't contributed enough, and maybe it's time I stopped trying to. Don't be dramatic, Allison, my mother sighed. No, Mom. Dad wants honesty, so here it is. I've spent my entire life trying to earn approval from people who decided long ago that I wasn't worth approving of. My father's face reddened. So now we're the villains, because we want you to be successful like your siblings. Because we're tired of watching you waste your potential on computer games. They're not games. For the first time I raised my voice. What I do matters. It has value. Just because you don't understand it doesn't make it worthless. What I understand, Dad said, standing to tower over me, is that you're almost 30 and have nothing to show for it. James is managing millions in assets. Stephanie is building a family. What are you building besides excuses? The truth burned in my throat. I was building an empire. But looking at his face, I knew he'd never believe it without proof. And once I proved it, he'd only want to take credit for it. If you can't respect my choices, then maybe I should go, I said finally. My father's expression hardened. Maybe you should. In fact, until you can start contributing to this family like an adult, maybe you shouldn't come back at all. Mom gasped. Richard. No, Diane. I'm done enabling this behavior. Allison has made her choice. If she can't be part of this family in a meaningful way, then she can spend Christmas elsewhere until she figures it out. I looked around at my family. Mom teary, but silent. James barely concealing his satisfaction. Stephanie embarrassed but unwilling to speak up. Not one of them defended me. Fine, I said, grabbing my coat. Merry Christmas. I walked to the door, half expecting someone to stop me. No one did. If you walk out that door, my father called after me, don't expect to be welcomed back until you've got something real to show for yourself. I turned back one last time. Be careful what you wish for, Dad. The door slammed behind me, the sound echoing in the silent, snowy night. 2 hours later, I was checking into the presidential suite at the Four Seasons Boston. The hotel staff didn't blink at my casual attire or the single small suitcase I carried. My name alone was enough. Miss Parker, your executive team called ahead. They'll be joining you in the conference room at 9 a.m. tomorrow. As requested, the manager informed me, personally escorting me to my suite. And we've taken the liberty of sending up a small Christmas dinner. Thank you, David, I replied, using his name from his badge. I appreciate you working on the holiday. Once alone in the palatial suite, I kicked off my snow-covered boots and poured myself a generous glass of Macallan 25 from the bar. The irony wasn't lost on me. My father had the same scotch displayed in his study, but only brought it out for special clients. I took a sip, letting the warm liquid burn away the lingering taste of humiliation. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer, my COO. Conference room booked. Team confirmed for 9. You okay? I typed back, I'm fine. Family is officially cut off. Details tomorrow, Jennifer replied immediately. Their loss. We're your family now. I smiled at that. She wasn't wrong. 4 years ago, Secure Shield had been nothing but code on my laptop and dreams in my head. I started building the security software in my MIT dorm room, initially as a project to help small businesses protect their customer data. The algorithm I developed could detect and neutralize intrusion attempts far faster than existing solutions at a fraction of the processing power. The turning point came during my senior year when I presented at a campus tech showcase. Most students had friends and family cheering them on. I had empty chairs where my family should have been. But sitting in the back row was Ryan Matthews, a visiting lecturer and angel investor who specialized in cybersecurity startups. "Your approach to predictive threat modeling is revolutionary," Ryan told me afterward. "Have you considered commercializing this?" Within a month, Ryan had invested $500 zero-inches seed funding and connected me with his network of industry contacts. We incorporated immediately after graduation, working out of a tiny office space in Cambridge with 3 employees. Me, a fellow MIT grad named Raj, and Jennifer, who had 5 years of experience at a major tech firm and took a massive pay cut to join us because she believed in the vision. Our first major client came 3 months later, a regional bank that had suffered a costly data breach. We implemented our solution and stopped another attack attempt within the first week. Word spread quickly in financial circles. By the end of our first year, we had 15 employees and a client roster that included 3 banks and a healthcare system. The Series A funding round brought in $4.2 million and allowed us to expand to 50 employees. Series B, 18 months later, valued the company at $28 million. The recent Series C had pushed our valuation to $68 million, with investors practically begging to get in. Through it all, I kept a low profile. No flashy LinkedIn updates, no industry conference keynotes, no press interviews. Part of it was strategic. Staying under the radar gave us a competitive advantage. But mostly I wanted to succeed completely on my own terms without my family's knowledge or interference. The dinner the hotel sent up was elaborate: prime rib roasted potatoes, asparagus, chocolate cake, all for one person. I took a few bites but couldn't stomach much. Instead, I opened my laptop and reviewed the quarterly projections, trying to lose myself in work rather than dwell on the night's events. At 9 p.m. my phone rang. Ryan Matthews, my mentor and first investor. "Merry Christmas, Allison," he said warmly. "How's the family gathering?" I took a deep breath. Officially over. My father kicked me out. What? Why? The usual. I'm a disappointment. I haven't contributed anything to the family legacy. I'm wasting my potential. I laughed bitterly. Apparently founding a $68 million company doesn't count if they don't know about it. There was a pause. Maybe it's time they did know. I gazed out at the Boston skyline, lights twinkling like stars against the dark winter sky. I've been thinking the same thing. The Forbes piece comes out in 3 weeks anyway. They're going to find out soon. How do you want to handle it? I considered the question carefully. I'm done hiding my success. But I'm also done seeking their approval. If they couldn't support me when I had nothing, they don't get to benefit now that I have everything. Ryan's voice was gentle but firm. "Just don't make any decisions out of anger that you might regret later. Family is complicated." "Family is supposed to believe in you," I replied. "They're supposed to catch you when you fall, not push you down harder." After hanging up, I walked to the window, staring at the snow falling gently over the city. Tomorrow was Christmas. I had a $68 million company, employees who respected me, mentors who believed in me, and enough money to buy anything I wanted. By any objective measure, I was wildly successful. So why did I feel so utterly alone? In the reflection of the window, I saw not the powerful CEO, but the little girl who just wanted her father to be proud of her. For a moment, I let myself cry. Not for the family I'd lost tonight, but for the family I'd never really had. Then I wiped my tears, straightened my shoulders, and turned away from the window. Tomorrow, my executive team would gather for an emergency meeting. And Operation Frost, because yes, I had a flair for dramatic code names, would begin. Exactly 16 days after Christmas, my father opened his copy of Forbes magazine and choked on his morning coffee. There I was on page 38, under the headline, Security Revolution: How Allison Parker's Secure Shield is Changing the Cybersecurity Landscape. The professional headshot showed me in a tailored charcoal suit, arms crossed, standing in front of our Cambridge headquarters. The article detailed Secure Shield's meteoric rise, our innovative technology, the recent $68 million valuation, and our client list that now included 3 Fortune 500 companies. The final paragraph quoted me directly. Success isn't about following someone else's blueprint. It's about having the courage to create your own path even when the people closest to you don't understand it. I knew exactly when he saw it because my phone exploded with notifications. First came the family group text that I was still part of but had muted months ago. Dad, family meeting. Our house. 7 p.m. Mandatory. Mom, Allison, honey, please call us. Your father just saw something very interesting. James, what the actual hell? Allie Forbes. Stephanie, oh my god, is this real? Call Mom, please, she's freaking out. Then came the individual texts and calls. First from Mom, then Dad, then James, then Stephanie, then extended family members I hadn't spoken to in years. I let them all go to voicemail. Their shocked reactions were simultaneously validating and infuriating. They were impressed now, but where was that support when I actually needed it? Jennifer poked her head into my office. Your brother is on line 3. He says it's urgent. They're all going to say it's urgent, I replied without looking up from my laptop. Standard protocol, I'm in meetings all day, unavailable until further notice. And if they show up here? I finally looked up. They won't. That would require acknowledging they were wrong, and Parkers don't do that. They'll strategize first, try to figure out how to spin this to their advantage. I was right. Instead of showing up, my phone rang again. This time my father. I let it go to voicemail but couldn't resist listening to his message. Allison, this is your father. We just saw the Forbes article. I think there's been a significant misunderstanding between us. Call me back immediately so we can discuss this development. No apology. No admission of wrongdoing. Just a misunderstanding that needed clearing up now that I was suddenly worth talking to. 3 hours later, my mother called. Her voicemail was tearful. Allie, sweetheart. Why didn't you tell us? We're your family. We've always supported you. Your father is. Well, you know how he is with showing emotion. But he's very proud. We all are. Please call us back, darling. The family doesn't feel right without you. The selective memory was astounding. Always supported me. The family doesn't feel right without me. Where was this sentiment on Christmas Eve when I was standing in the snow? By evening, I noticed James had viewed my LinkedIn profile 6 times and was systematically going through all my company's social media pages. Stephanie had sent a text that was particularly transparent. Congrats, sis. So proud of you. Hey, by the way, Bradley's cousin is graduating from computer school or whatever it's called and looking for a job. Can I give him your email? Also, we should do lunch. Miss you tons. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I focused on finalizing our new office lease and interviewing candidates for our expanding development team. But my resolve was tested the next day when my college friend Mia called. Allie, just a heads up. Your family was at the country club last night telling everyone how they'd been supporting your tech venture from the beginning and how your dad had provided crucial early guidance. Your brother was hinting that he might come work with you to help manage the family business. My blood boiled. Are you serious? Dead serious. Your dad was practically taking credit for your success, saying how he pushed you to be independent and taught you everything about business strategy. I gripped the phone tighter. Thanks for letting me know. What are you going to do? I glanced at the calendar on my desk. Nothing yet. They'll have to make the first move. That move came exactly 1 week after the Forbes article was published. My assistant buzzed my office intercom. Miss Parker, your family is in the lobby. All of them. Your father says they won't leave until they see you, I sighed. Sooner than I expected, but entirely predictable. Tell them I'm in back-to-back meetings all afternoon but can spare exactly 15 minutes at 4:30. Let them wait, I thought. Let them sit in the lobby of the company they never believed could exist, and see what their daughter had built without them. At precisely 4:35 p.m., I walked into the conference room where my family had been waiting. I deliberately kept them waiting an extra 5 minutes, a small power move but necessary to set the tone. I was no longer the daughter seeking approval, I was the CEO granting them an audience. They all stood when I entered. My father trying to look commanding in his Brooks Brothers suit that suddenly seemed dated compared to the tech-casual environment of my office. My mother dressed as if for a country club luncheon, nervously clutching her designer purse. James in his banker's suit, eyes darting around the room calculating. Stephanie scrolling through her phone until Mom elbowed her. Allison. My father stepped forward, arms outstretched as if for a hug I had no intention of giving. You look professional. I kept the boardroom table between us. What can I do for you? I have another meeting in 10 minutes. 10 minutes, we're family, not clients, my father scoffed, but the uncertainty in his voice betrayed him. He wasn't used to me having the upper hand. Family doesn't usually need an appointment, I replied coolly. What do you want? My mother stepped in, always the mediator. Darling, we wanted to see you, to congratulate you in person. All this is so impressive. Thank you. Is that all? James cleared his throat. Actually, Allie, we wanted to discuss some potential synergies. Now that we know about your company, there are some strategic opportunities we could explore together. Synergies, I repeated, raising an eyebrow. Yes, with Dad's client network and my financial expertise, we could really help you scale. I've actually been looking at diversifying my portfolio, and tech investment is a natural next step. I stared at him incredulously. Let me get this straight. 2 weeks ago you watched Dad throw me out of the house on Christmas Eve. Now you want to help me scale. About Christmas, Dad interjected smoothly, that was a terrible misunderstanding. I was concerned about you, Allison. You were so secretive about your work. If you had just told us, if I had just told you. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. I tried telling you. For years. You never listened. That's not true. You always what Dad always believed in me, always supported my dreams, because I distinctly remember you calling my work playing with computers and cutting off my college funding. An awkward silence fell. Through the glass walls I could see my employees trying not to stare at the family drama unfolding. Jennifer hovered nearby, ready to interrupt with my next meeting if needed. My mother tried again. We're so proud of you, sweetheart. This is a chance for us to come together again as a family. Your father and I were talking, and we'd love to host a celebration dinner at the club. Everyone would be there. Aunts, uncles, cousins. To celebrate your success. My success that you had absolutely nothing to do with, I said flatly. Stephanie finally looked up from her phone. Oh, before I forget, Bradley's looking for a new opportunity, and with your connections. No. You haven't even heard. The answer is no. I'm not hiring Bradley. I'm not giving Dad's clients special cybersecurity rates. I'm not letting James invest in my company. And I'm not attending a celebration dinner where you all pretend you supported me from day one. My father's face darkened. Now you listen here, young lady. We are your family. We've always wanted what's best for you. What's best for me? Or what makes you look best? This attitude is exactly why we've been concerned about you, he continued, voice rising. Success has clearly gone to your head. You've changed. No, Dad. I haven't changed at all. I'm exactly the same person I was on Christmas Eve. The only thing that's different is now you know that I'm successful. James stepped closer, lowering his voice conspiratorially. Look, Allie, we're just trying to help. Your company is clearly doing well, but with the right guidance. The right guidance, I laughed. My company has a $68 million valuation. How's your performance review going at Dad's firm? James, still struggling to meet those quarterly targets, his face flushed red. I'd hit a nerve. Miss Parker, Jennifer interrupted right on cue. Your 5 p.m. is waiting. I nodded. Thank you, Jennifer. Please escort my family out. This isn't over, Allison, my father said, his voice low and threatening. You may think you don't need your family, but you'll realize how wrong you are. I met his gaze steadily. Security will help you to the lobby. Please don't return without an appointment. As they were escorted out, I heard my father's voice rise in the hallway. Do you know who I am? I'm Richard Parker. That's my daughter's company. Not anymore, I whispered to myself. Not anymore. The next day the attacks began. A distant cousin called to tell me that my father was telling family members I was having mental health issues due to work stress. Apparently my delusions of grandeur had led to a temporary break with the family, but they were supporting me through this difficult time. A week later, an employee reported that my mother had called her directly expressing concerns about my well-being and asking for updates on my behavior at work. 2 other team members received LinkedIn messages from James inquiring about investment opportunities and potential exits. Most disturbingly, one of our investors called to let me know that someone claiming to be my brother had reached out suggesting that I was in over my head and might need family intervention in the company leadership. I told him to pound sand, the investor assured me. But thought you should know. I called an emergency meeting with my executive team and legal counsel. They're trying to undermine me, I explained, showing them the evidence we'd gathered. This isn't just about reconciliation anymore. They're actively trying to interfere with the business. We need to send cease and desist letters, our lawyer advised. Document everything. If they continue, we can seek a restraining order. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of anger and grief. Do it, and strengthen the protocols about who can access company information. No one speaks to anyone claiming to be my family without direct authorization from me. That night, alone in my apartment, I received an anonymous email with screenshots of negative reviews suddenly appearing about SecureShield on industry forums. The writing style was unmistakably James's, the same pompous phrasing he used in his college essays that I'd helped him edit. It was clear now. This wasn't just about my family trying to get back in my good graces for financial gain. They were actively trying to damage what I'd built because I wouldn't let them control it. The realization was both painful and clarifying. This wasn't just a family rift anymore. This was war. The next month brought escalating attacks from my family, each more underhanded than the last. What had begun as attempts to capitalize on my success had transformed into a coordinated campaign to undermine it when I refused to play by their rules. On a Tuesday morning, I received an urgent call from our sales director. Allison, we just lost the Meridian contract. They were practically signed yesterday, but something spooked them overnight. Meridian Technologies would have been our largest client to date, a $12 million contract that we'd spent months negotiating. What happened? I asked, already suspecting the answer. Their CFO got a call from someone at Wellington Investment Group warning them about stability issues with our leadership. They specifically mentioned your name. Wellington, my father's firm, and the CFO was a longtime golf buddy of his. The evidence continued to mount. James had approached Ryan Matthews, my mentor and initial investor, claiming to be concerned about my mental health and suggesting that perhaps the board should consider temporary leadership changes. Ryan had laughed him out of the building but warned me immediately. Your brother actually suggested he could step in as interim CEO, Ryan told me, his voice thick with disbelief. The man has never written a line of code in his life. Even my mother had joined the fray. A small local business publication ran a profile on parents of tech prodigies, featuring an interview with her in which she claimed to have nurtured my technical interests from childhood and sacrificed to support my dreams. She'd even shared baby photos and childhood stories that painted a completely fictional picture of supportive parents who'd always believed in me. The most vicious attack came from Stephanie, She'd created a social media storm by posting throwback family photos with captions like, "Missing my sister who's too busy for family these days," "Number forgetting where you came from," and "Some people let success change them," "Number family first." Her wedding planning Instagram account, with its modest but dedicated following, became a platform for subtle digs about people who abandon their roots. The comments sections filled with sympathetic responses painting me as the villain who'd abandoned my loving family after achieving success. The narrative was taking hold, especially among extended family members who didn't know the full story. Cousins I'd been close with as a child began sending reproachful messages. Aunts and uncles took sides, mostly against me believing my parents' version of events. The constant attacks took a toll despite my professional success. One evening, after a particularly grueling board meeting where we'd had to address the impact of my family's interference on client relationships, I locked myself in my office and broke down. Jennifer found me there, staring blankly at the Boston skyline, eyes red from crying. "They're never going to stop, are they?" I asked quietly. She sat beside me. "Not until they're forced to. I keep thinking that if I just ignore them, focus on the business, they'll eventually give up. But they're actually escalating." Jennifer nodded. "Because you're proving you don't need them, and that terrifies them. Your success challenges their entire worldview. The idea that success only comes through their approved channels, their connections, their way of doing things." I wiped my eyes. I never wanted this fight. I just wanted to build something that mattered. "And you have," Jennifer assured me. "The team is behind you 100%. We all know the truth." That night, I called Ryan for advice. His counsel had guided me through every major business decision. Now I needed his wisdom for this personal battle. "Your family has decided that if they can't control your success, they'll try to destroy it," he said bluntly. "You need to respond decisively." "What do you suggest?" "Stop playing defense. They're attacking your company, your reputation, your relationships. It's time to protect what you've built." The next day I met with our legal team. "I need options," I told them. "My family is actively trying to sabotage my company. What can we do?" Our head lawyer, Patricia, laid out several strategies. "We've already sent cease and desist letters, which they've essentially ignored. We can pursue legal action for defamation, tortious interference with business relationships, and possibly harassment. Will that stop them?" Patricia hesitated. "It might eventually, but litigation is slow, and it could create publicity that might damage the company's reputation." "What else?" "Well," she said carefully, "there are also strategic business moves that could discourage their behavior." "I'm listening." By the end of the day, we had developed Operation Frost, a comprehensive strategy to protect the company from my family's interference, while sending a clear message that their actions had consequences. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace, but my family had made it clear they wouldn't grant that until they were forced to. That evening, as I finalized the plans, I received another voicemail from my father. "Allison, this ridiculous situation has gone on long enough. Your mother is heartbroken. The family is divided, all because of your stubbornness. We raised you better than this. Call me back so we can put this nonsense behind us." Still no apology. Still no acknowledgement of their behavior. Still the assumption that I would eventually fall in line. I deleted the message and sent a text to Jennifer. "Operation Frost begins tomorrow." For the first time since Christmas Eve, I slept soundly. The path ahead was clear now. I would defend what I had built, whatever it took. Operation Frost launched on a Monday morning with surgical precision. First came the legal salvo. Formal cease and desist letters delivered by courier to each family member, not just from me personally but from Secure Shield's corporate attorneys. The letters detailed every instance of interference, defamation, and harassment, with timestamps, screenshots, and witness statements. "These are not friendly warnings," Patricia had explained as we finalized the documents. "These are legally binding notifications that further actions will result in immediate litigation." Simultaneously, we implemented enhanced security protocols across the company. All employees were briefed about potential contact from my family members and given clear instructions to direct any communication through proper channels. Building security received photos of my parents, James and Stephanie, with instructions that they were not permitted entry without express authorization from me. But the legal maneuvers were just the opening salvo. The real strategy went much deeper. "Your father has built his career on reputation and connections," Ryan had advised. "That's his vulnerability." Our research team had compiled a detailed analysis of my father's business network, including his major clients and partners. We weren't planning anything unethical, just strategic business moves that would send a clear message. The first domino fell when SecureShield announced a new partnership with Blackstone Financial, one of the largest competitors to Wellington Investment Group where my father worked. The press release highlighted our cutting-edge security solutions for the financial sector with special rates for Blackstone clients. Within days, 3 of my father's major clients had contacted Blackstone about switching their portfolios. Next, we finalized the purchase of the commercial building that housed Wellington's Boston offices. I'd been eyeing the property for months as a potential headquarters expansion, but the timing now seemed particularly appropriate. No eviction notices were sent. We weren't that petty, but the management company did inform all tenants that under the new ownership rent would be increasing by 15% upon lease renewal. The look on my father's face when he learned his daughter now owned his building must have been priceless. For James, the strategy was more direct. His department specialized in tech sector investments, an area where he claimed expertise despite limited actual knowledge. Our investor relations team reached out to his largest client, offering a private tour of our facilities and a personalized cybersecurity assessment. When the client discovered the actual innovations happening at SecureShield, innovations James had dismissed as insignificant, they began questioning his other technology recommendations. My mother's charity board position became collateral damage when SecureShield announced a major donation to the organization, 3 times larger than the previous record contribution, with the stipulation that the funds be directed to technology education for underprivileged girls. The board was thrilled, naturally voting to approve the new initiative and placing me on the advisory committee. My mother's carefully cultivated influence was suddenly overshadowed. As for Stephanie, we hadn't planned specific action against her, but fate provided an opportunity. Her fiancé Bradley's family construction company had bid on a major commercial project. SecureShield, expanding rapidly and needing new office space, submitted a competing proposal with a more experienced contractor. We won the bid on merit, but the timing couldn't have been more pointed. Within 2 weeks, the effects were evident. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. "This is outrageous. Call me immediately." I didn't respond. 3 days later, Jennifer reported that James had been called into a meeting with his supervisors at Wellington after losing a major account to Blackstone. Apparently, the client specifically mentioned wanting access to SecureShield's security platform as one of the reasons for switching, she said, trying to suppress a smile. I didn't feel the satisfaction I'd expected. "Is this wrong, Jen? Using business tactics against my own family?" Her expression sobered. "They tried to destroy what you built, Allison. They attacked your reputation, undermined client relationships, and attempted to interfere with company operations. You're not attacking them. You're defending yourself in the language they understand." She was right, but the victory felt hollow. That evening, alone in my apartment, I stared at old family photos on my phone. Despite everything, they were still my family. The people in these smiling pictures, Were they really as calculating as their recent actions suggested, or had success and power changed us all? My contemplation was interrupted by a call from Ryan. "Your father showed up at my office today," he said without preamble. I sat up straight. "What? Why?" "He wanted to discuss your concerning behavior and suggested I might help arrange a family intervention regarding your company leadership." "You're kidding." I wish I were. When that didn't work, he tried a different angle. Suggested that as an early investor, I might have concerns about the company's direction under your emotional leadership. "What did you tell him?" "That Secure Shield has outperformed every projection under your guidance, and that attempting to manipulate investors could constitute securities fraud." Ryan's voice hardened. "I also suggested he speak to his attorney about the potential legal implications of his actions thus far." After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence. They still weren't getting the message. Instead of acknowledging their wrongdoing, they were doubling down. The next morning, my executive team gathered for our regular strategy meeting. I arrived to find them huddled around a laptop, expressions grim. "What's going on?" I asked. Jennifer turned the screen toward me. "Your father gave an interview to the Boston Business Journal. It just went live." The headline made my blood run cold. "Local investment manager concerned about daughter's tech company. Success came too fast." In the article, my father positioned himself as the concerned parent of a young founder overwhelmed by rapid success. He stopped short of direct accusations but implied that I was rejecting family guidance out of youthful arrogance and making concerning business decisions. "He's trying to spook our investors," our CFO said. "Classic market manipulation tactic." I scanned the article again, anger building with each word. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. This was a deliberate attempt to damage my company's market position. "Get Patricia on the phone," I said, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. "We're filing a defamation lawsuit today. And call our PR team. We need a response strategy immediately." As the team dispersed to execute the plan, Jennifer stayed behind. "You know this means war," she said quietly. "Once you file that lawsuit, there's no going back." I nodded, a strange calm settling over me. They declared war the moment they tried to hurt my company. I just didn't want to believe it until now. That afternoon, Secure Shield formally filed a defamation lawsuit against Richard Parker. The press release was clinical and fact-based, but the message was clear: I would not allow anyone, not even my father, to threaten what I had built. 6 months after the Forbes article that had set everything in motion, the financial world was rocked by market turbulence. Tech stocks remained relatively stable, but the financial sector, particularly investment management firms like Wellington, took a significant hit. Clients grew nervous, withdrawing funds or moving to larger, more established institutions deemed too big to fail. I hadn't initiated the market downturn, of course, but our strategic moves over the preceding months had positioned my family particularly poorly to weather it. The first concrete news came through industry channels. Wellington had lost several major accounts, including 3 that had been personally managed by my father. Without those clients, his division was underperforming significantly. James's quarterly numbers were even worse. His tech portfolio recommendations had consistently underperformed against market benchmarks. I heard through the grapevine that both were under performance review. The lawsuit against my father hadn't helped his professional standing either. While the case was still pending, the publicity had raised questions about his judgment and personal conduct. It was Ryan who brought me the most detailed update over lunch at a quiet restaurant in Back Bay. "Wellington is restructuring," he informed me, stirring his coffee. "Your father's division is being consolidated with another department. He'll keep his job but lose his title and most of his autonomy." "And James?" Ryan hesitated. "He's been demoted. Junior analyst now with a significant pay cut. The word is that if he doesn't show major improvement in the next quarter, he'll be let go entirely." I absorbed this information silently. I hadn't intended to destroy their careers, only to send a message that actions have consequences. Yet I couldn't deny a complicated satisfaction knowing they were finally experiencing some measure of the insecurity they'd so callously dismissed in my own journey. "There's more," Ryan continued. "The family home has been listed for sale. Asking price is well below market value, suggesting they need a quick sale." This was unexpected. Are they in that much financial trouble? Hard to say for certain, but between the legal fees from your father's case, James's pay cut, and what I hear was a very expensive venue deposit for your sister's wedding, it seems they're cash-strapped. Later that afternoon, the call I had been half expecting finally came. My mother's name appeared on my phone screen for the first time in months. I debated letting it go to voicemail but finally answered. "Mom." "Allison." Her voice was thinner than I remembered, strained with stress. We need to talk." "About what?" "Things are difficult right now." "You've made your point. Isn't that enough?" I closed my eyes, counting to 10 before responding. "I didn't create this situation, Mom. You all did. We're your family, Allison. Families have disagreements, but at the end of the day they support each other. Support like the support you showed when Dad threw me out on Christmas Eve, or when you all tried to sabotage my company." She sighed heavily. "We've made mistakes, but this has gone far enough. Your father's reputation is in tatters. James might lose his job. We're having to sell the house, and Stephanie's had to cancel her dream venue for a much smaller wedding. Is that what you wanted? The guilt trip might have worked once, but not anymore. What I wanted was a family who believed in me, who supported me when I was struggling, not just when I succeeded. What I wanted was an apology, a real one, not this manipulative plea for help now that you're facing consequences. So you won't help us after everything we did for you?" "What exactly did you do for me, Mom? Dad cut off my college funding. I worked 3 jobs to graduate. I built my company with zero support from any of you. And when I finally succeeded, you all tried to either take credit or tear it down." The line went quiet for so long, I thought she might have hung up. "Your father wants to meet with you," she finally said, "face to face." "Why?" "Because we're family, Allison. Whatever has happened, that doesn't change." I agreed to the meeting more out of curiosity than reconciliation. We arranged to meet at my office the following week, on neutral territory but where I held home court advantage. When the day arrived, my father appeared at reception alone. Security escorted him to the conference room where I waited, deliberately seated at the head of the table. He looked older, grayer. The confident swagger was diminished but not entirely gone. He took in the sleek conference room, the floor-to-ceiling windows with their panoramic view of Boston, the subtle displays of company awards and press coverage. "Impressive," he acknowledged, taking a seat. "You've built something substantial here." "Thank you. Why did you want to meet?" He cleared his throat. "The past few months have been difficult for our family. The house, James's position, your sister's wedding plans. Everything's in flux. I'm aware. You could help, Allison. A small investment from you would barely be noticeable with your resources now, but it would make an enormous difference to your family." I stared at him incredulously. "Is that why you're here? For money?" "I'm here because we're family," he insisted, voice rising slightly. "Families support each other through difficult times. Like you supported me when I was struggling through college, or when you kicked me out on Christmas Eve." He waved a dismissive hand. "I was trying to motivate you." Tough love. And clearly it worked. Look at all this. The audacity was breathtaking. Even now he was trying to take credit for my success. "Let me be very clear," I said, leaning forward. "My success happened despite you, not because of you. Your tough love wasn't motivation, it was rejection. And now you want to benefit from the very success you dismissed, and then tried to undermine." "I made mistakes," he admitted, the words clearly difficult for him. "We all did. But holding this grudge is beneath you, Allison. It's not good business to let personal feelings cloud your judgment. This isn't about business. It's about respect, about trust. About family, actually behaving like family. So help us, he pushed. Show you're better than all this. A small investment to help your family get back on their feet. You can afford it. I studied him carefully. There was no real remorse in his eyes, just calculation. Even now he was trying to manipulate me using family obligations as leverage while showing no genuine accountability for his actions. I'll consider it, I said finally. On one condition. Hope flickered across his face. Name it. I want you to list right now every mistake you made regarding me and my career. Every dismissive comment. Every time you undermined me. Every attempt to sabotage my company. And then I want a genuine apology, not for misunderstandings or family disagreements, but for the actual harm you caused. His expression hardened. This is ridiculous. I'm your father. I don't have to justify myself to you. Then I don't have to give you money. He stood abruptly. You think you're so much better than us now. Your own family comes to you in need and you set conditions. This isn't about apologies, it's about power. You're enjoying watching us struggle. No, Dad, I'm not enjoying any of this. But I'm also not going to pretend everything is fine just because you've decided you need my help now. His face flushed with anger. You ungrateful. He caught himself visibly struggling for control. This isn't over, Allison. The family you're so casually discarding. We're the only ones who will stand by you when all this comes crashing down. Security will escort you out, I said, calmly pressing the intercom button. Please don't contact me again unless you're ready to take responsibility for your actions. As he was led away, his parting shot echoed down the hallway. You think you're untouchable now, but pride comes before the fall, Allison. You'll regret this. That evening I received an anonymous email with screenshots of private information. Childhood medical records, embarrassing teenage journal entries, unflattering photos that had been shared in a family group chat. The accompanying message read, considering sending to industry publications. Family loyalty goes both ways. The final line in the battle had been crossed. This was no longer about reconciliation or even money. My family was willing to publicly humiliate me rather than acknowledge their wrongdoing. I forwarded the email to Patricia with a single instruction: no more holding back. 1 year after the Christmas Eve that changed everything, I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse apartment watching snow fall gently over Boston. The city looked peaceful, a stark contrast to the turbulent year behind me. 3 months earlier, I had finalized the sale of Secure Shield to a major tech conglomerate for $120 million. After investor payouts and employee bonuses, I walked away with $68 million, a poetic figure that matched the valuation that had so impressed my family a year before. The decision to sell hadn't been easy. Secure Shield was my creation, my redemption, my proof to the world and myself that I was worthy, but I had realized something important. I didn't need to keep proving myself. The company had served its purpose in my journey. It was time for something new. The legal battles with my family had ended in a settlement. After the threatening email with my private information, my legal team had pursued restraining orders and additional claims. Faced with mounting legal costs and potential public embarrassment, my father had finally agreed to terms: a complete non-contact agreement, financial penalties for violations, and a mutual non-disparagement clause. I hadn't spoken to any of them since. Occasionally, news filtered through mutual connections. My parents had downsized to a condo after selling the family home. My father had taken early retirement from Wellington, his reputation too damaged to rebuild. James had left finance entirely, now working in sales for a mid-level company. Stephanie had married Bradley in a modest ceremony at their local church instead of the country club extravaganza she'd planned. I felt no joy in their downfall, only a complicated grief for what might have been if ego and control hadn't poisoned our relationship. The most unexpected development had come 6 months after the Forbes article, when I received a letter from Aunt Rebecca, my father's sister, whom I barely knew. they had been estranged for decades, and she had never been present at family gatherings. "I've been following your success," she wrote. "It reminds me so much of my own journey. Richard did to you exactly what he did to me 30 years ago when I started my design firm instead of joining the family business. I regret not reaching out sooner, but I thought you might not welcome contact from anyone with the Parker name." We met for coffee, and the connection was immediate. Rebecca had built a successful interior design business despite my father's attempts to undermine her, eventually selling it and retiring comfortably. She understood exactly what I had endured, because she had lived it herself. "Richard has always needed to control the narrative," she explained during one of our many dinners together. "Anyone who writes their own story is a threat to him." Through Rebecca, I found something I'd never truly had. Family who accepted me exactly as I was, who celebrated my success without trying to claim credit for it, who offered wisdom without demanding compliance. That connection inspired my next venture. Using a portion of my Secure Shield proceeds, I established the Rebecca Parker Foundation for Women in Technology, providing scholarships and mentorship to young women pursuing unconventional paths in tech. The program specifically sought out candidates who lacked family support, the girls whose parents dismissed their dreams as just a phase or refused to fund their education. My personal healing came more slowly. Weekly therapy sessions helped me process the complex grief of family estrangement. I learned that forgiving my family didn't necessarily mean reconciling with them. Forgiveness was for my peace, not their absolution. I also built a chosen family around me. Jennifer had left Secure Shield with me and was now my partner in a new venture fund focusing on women-led startups. Ryan remained a trusted mentor and friend. My executive team had scattered to new opportunities but remained close, gathering monthly for dinner and support. On this Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year after being kicked out in the snow, I wasn't alone. My apartment was filled with people who genuinely cared about me. Rebecca, Jennifer, Ryan, and a dozen other friends and colleagues who had become my real family. As we gathered around the dining table, Rebecca raised her glass. To Allison, who had the courage to create her own path and the wisdom to help others find theirs. After dinner, I stepped onto my snow-covered balcony for a moment alone. My phone buzzed with a notification. An email from my mother, the first direct contact in months. "Merry Christmas, Allison. I hope this finds you well. I've been doing a lot of thinking this past year. I failed you as a mother. I didn't protect you from your father's unreasonable expectations. I didn't stand up for you when I should have. I chose peace at home over supporting my daughter. These are my failures, not yours. I don't expect forgiveness or reconciliation. I just wanted you to know that I recognize my part in what happened. I'm proud of what you've built, not just in business but in life. You deserved better from your family. I'm sorry we couldn't be what you needed." I read it twice, tears blurring my vision, not because it healed everything. It was far too late for that, but because it was perhaps the first genuinely honest communication I'd ever received from my mother. I didn't respond. Maybe someday I would, but not yet. For now, it was enough to know that some truth had finally been acknowledged. Jennifer joined me on the balcony, wrapping a warm blanket around my shoulders. "Everything okay?" I nodded, slipping my phone back into my pocket. "Better than okay. I was just thinking about how much has changed in a year." "You mean besides becoming a multi-millionaire, selling your company, starting a foundation, and launching a venture fund?" she teased. I laughed. "I meant more. Internally. A year ago, I still thought I needed my family's approval to be whole. I still thought reconciliation was the only happy ending possible. And now I understand that sometimes the healthiest family is the one you choose. The people who support your dreams instead of trying to control them. The ones who celebrate your success instead of trying to take credit for it." We rejoined the warm gathering inside, where laughter and conversation flowed freely. This was what family should feel like. Safe, supportive, genuine. Later that night, after everyone had gone, I added a final entry to the journal I'd been keeping all year. The greatest revenge isn't freezing people out. It's building a life so full of warmth that their absence barely registers. Success isn't measured by bank accounts or magazine features. It's measured by how authentically you live your truth, how bravely you pursue your dreams, and how much you lift others as you climb. A year ago, I lost the family I was born into. Today, I'm surrounded by the family I've chosen, and the life I've built on my own terms. That's not revenge. That's freedom. What about you? Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and your own dreams? Did you follow the path they wanted or forge your own? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to write their own story even when family doesn't understand. Thank you for joining me today, and remember, the most important approval you'll ever need is your own. Until next time,